Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. My name is Niels Tudor Winter and I am the creator, editor and host of The Grant. My timeline series is going through the proposal process step by step, giving tips, tricks and advice on the Horizon Europe proposal preparation process. I have now reached to the actual proposal writing, and of course I start off with the excellence section. This is where you describe the core of your project idea and how you will carry out the project. I have written some proposals in my career, but honestly my core capacities lie in the facilitating part. So, to make sure I get it right and that you get all the right advice, I have invited one of my advisory board members, private consultant Marie Prouteau, on board for this double episode. This episode will stretch over 2 episodes. In the first episode, Marie and I are digging into the EU Commission's outline and directions in the official Horizon Europe proposal template for innovation actions and research and innovation actions. In the second episode that will be released next week, we share our reflections on how to actually write the different subsections in the excellence chapter. For now, it's time for going through the template. Please enjoy. The Grant. Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. One and only. Still, I am excited today. I have another guest. I am running, as you all know, if you've been following this until now, the timeline series as my first sort of initiative to build this up. And I have reached the element of the excellence chapter, the phase where you need to start. So the writing phase, I've reached that. And the reason why I have a guest, all my other episodes are solo episodes. The reason why I have a guest is because I have not written a lot of excellence chapters myself. And I would like this to be authoritative, since it is supposed to be generic episodes that you can always go back to and listen to, no matter what kind of Horizon Pillar 2 proposal you're preparing. And it would be a pity that I would sit and paddle around in a little podcast canoe trying to make a content when I can actually have a guest on board that knows much more and have tried it much more than me. So, Marie, welcome.
Hello.
We will shortly go into depths of what we're going to do. But before we do that, can you shortly present yourself and say a few words about yourself?
Yes, I can. So, hello, everybody. So, I am Marie Prouteau. I've been working in the field of EU funds for the past 13 years. I first started to work for CNRS, which is a French research center. And then I decided to pursue my career as a consultant in the private sector to support organizations working in research and innovation, to help them to build their proposals, to help them to find the right consortium, to help them with the management of proposals, the evaluation of their proposals. For example, if they want to submit it, I also have a role in the evaluation at the end. And we support them as well for the dissemination, the communication. So this is something I'm doing now. And that's it.
Thank you. So 2 things. First, for everybody to know, I am so proud of the people that I'm connecting to this. Marie, I have connected her to my advisory board that you can check out on the website, thegrant.eu. It's a fantastic group of people that I have I've screened people through their activity, especially on LinkedIn. It's a combination of old contacts and people that I have noticed for a while and put on shortlist. And Marie here, she has a fantastic approach on LinkedIn on the way. So you don't speak of people in third person when they're in virtual podcast room. Marie, you are great on LinkedIn in the way that you have your approach on sharing with people both elements and things about Horizon Europe and proposal preparation projects, but also the narrative you put around how to do it. It's I love it, and other people in this advisory board, I've indeed picked them up for the same reason, that they are vibrant and willing to share sort of open science. Yeah.
Yeah.
The second thing I wanted to point out, I already forgot. It's no. So you're. I guess that was the approach on LinkedIn. So this is so I particularly noticed the approach there, and this is something that is just very important for me, that the people that I have, that they have sort of a nerve. They have sort of they resonate well with how to share and give, give something out of the experience they have. You have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
Have you been writing proposals throughout all that time?
Since I started, I first started when I was a junior, very, very junior. So no, I did not. I was first, when I started at CNRS, managing the proposals. But I think when you want to understand how to write a proposal, I think it's very good to start to manage a proposal, because you will not be able at some point to understand everything that is at stake when you write the proposal if you don't manage one, because then the management will be based on what you wrote. Yeah. So when you manage it, then you understand the mistakes. You understand everything that went wrong in the proposal and in the writing. So I think it's very good to start managing a proposal, and then you understand a bit what was behind. And then you can start a bit digging into that, and then you can start writing. I think I started writing proposals in 2013, maybe 3 years after I started managing. My bosses trusting me and then I started writing proposals. And then when I was in the public sector, and then when I went into the private, this was my main job, writing. Well, I would prefer to say supporting the writing, because as consulting, we don't have a magic wand, so we cannot write everything. So it has to be a big support as well to the coordinator and the partners to support them as well in the writing.
Then you have nice clients.
That's true.
You need to pick your clients. When I worked for P&O, I had these colleagues that were very, very good in business developing, these kind of clients that would be very good, strong in developing text themselves. Yeah. So it would be more sort of gathering and structuring input rather than and write it through, because what I've been through myself, it's sitting with colleagues and just sit and writing, and we'll get back to that because it's part of what we're going to talk about here.
Exactly.
What I always say to my guests, because this is an independent initiative, you can shamelessly promote your own organizations that you work for, and you are an independent now, so I hope it's going to help you to be part of this initiative. Anyways, you always feel free to promote your capacities.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah. So just for you, dear listeners, we are finished now our opening chatty. So what we're going to do is we will dig into the excellence chapter, how to approach that. So we have structured it like this, that we will first have a look at what's the European Commission starting point. So how do they describe for people who approach the funding how they're supposed to do it? It has some different. There's a specific lingo. There's specific things there that you need to be aware of in sections. That's that. And then from that, we will go through how you then have to answer to those things. And we will look at the narrative and the poetry, as I call it, and sorting the different sections of the excellence chapter. Then we will have a talk about how to sort the chaotic input. And this is input from the partners. We'll get back to that. I have mentioned in earlier episodes of the Timeline series here that writing a proposal is also a matter of coordinating and being extremely structured with input you get from partners. That's that. And then finally we will have short talk about visual layout, graphics, graphs, pictures, and so on, tables. But let's just hit right at the commission starting point. So there are two main tick boxes or two main elements that the commission, they say, this is what we need to focus on. So you have the clarity and pertinence of the objectives, and then you have the soundness of the proposed methodology. Maybe I read it out because we need to talk a little bit about these words and the lingo before we move on to how to work with it. So what they say is that the evaluation criterion excellence. This is something I took from a European Commission presentation. They use this as a standard. So this is the evaluation criterion that you are measured against. So they have two elements, and the first one is, and I'm just going to read it out and slowly, clarity and pertinence of the project's objectives and the extent to which the proposed work is ambitious and goes beyond the state of the art. And let's just stay with this sentence and deconstruct it, Maria, because there's a lot here. You have 20 words, but it's quite dense in relation to what you need to do. So let's just first talk about the lingo, the conceptual words that do. So clarity and pertinence. And actually, I forgot exactly what pertinence means.
It's the relevance, basically. It's the relevance of the project's objectives in regards to the call. And here, I think it's very interesting because here what you're reading, it's really related to the it's actually the evaluation criteria that the experts they will actually, when they will have to evaluate this section, they will use these words like clarity and pertinence to evaluate that. So, and what is clarity, this is how you explain your proposal. And this is what I always like to say. Here, it's as a researcher, you're not going to write a scientific publication here. It's you have a product that you want to sell and you want to get some money from a bank, basically. So let's just see the European Commission as a bank. And from that on, you need to really approach your proposal from, maybe researchers are not going to like what I'm saying, but from a marketing point of view. So everything needs to be really crystal clear, straight to the point, very well presented, very logical, and a lot of nice words like that explains just that the logic is very understandable even by non-specialists, because it's something that you need to think that the people that are going to evaluate your proposal are maybe not very big specialists of your proposal. So it needs to be very clear for them. So this is the clarity.
And we will get back to, this is the structure of how we do it in this episode. So we will get back to these things when we talk about how you actually do it. Now we just explain what the commission means with the things. Yeah. So pertinence, of course, it's related to what the commission wants to fund.
Yeah. And it's very interesting because a lot of time in the evaluation, the experts, they write out of the scope. So pertinence, it's like the relevance to the call and the relevance to the EC priorities and the relevance to what is written in the call. So when you write this excellence part, you should have your checklist with the call written words by words, and be sure that you tick everything, because if you don't tick any words of the call, then you will not be pertinent in regards to what is expected. And then you will be out of the scope, out of the outcomes, out of everything. So this is the meaning of pertinence.
I can recommend you to go back in the timeline series and listen to the episode on reading the call text. Because here I give some tips and tricks on how to break the text down in the call text and how the European Commission structured, and so. But it can be extremely complex, the call text. So it's actually often even experienced consultants, they sometimes lose a little bit the grip towards the end of the writing process. Yeah.
I agree.
Because you get into a discourse and you
agree.
get into a frame that you construct with a partnership against the call text.
Yeah.
But then, like we all know, when you make a work together, a project, it's basically, it can also be like a commercial project. When you work with something together in a group, then you move yourself towards a target, but there are some things that changes along the way because we cannot do this, then we have to do that, and then things change, you go back, and so it's regenerating, so to say, and then in the end, when you start to reach towards the deadline, suddenly you realize, wait a minute, we we're actually not doing this.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And this is something I sound a bit redundant sometimes when I'm supporting my client, but I keep telling them, please read again the call. I'm not like, be sure, I can advise a little bit, but sometimes I want to be sure that when I'm not going to read it for you like times and times. So just read it and then be sure that like you tick all the boxes. And it's something, but you have to tell it. Like you say, sometimes we can drift apart a little bit, and it's important.
I guess if you want to talk about creative energy, you need to get the best of the both worlds. So you kind of keep your nose in the track in relation to answering to the call, but still use the creative energy from the group and the brilliant minds that you have there to make ingenious approaches, so to say, to answering that in the ideal world.
Yeah, yeah, but it can work.
If you look at the rest of the sentence here, because you have two very important words that has been going hand in hand with the framework programs for decades now: ambition and state of the art. This is it's sort of they have their own life.
Yeah.
So of course, ambitious. It means what it means. You need to make an effort here with how you want to do it. So you cannot just jump on the low side. You have to really crunch some hard stones. But maybe you, Marie, can fold it out a little bit more.
Well, ambitious but realistic. This is something we need to keep in mind because we can promise the world, but at some points it needs to be realistic. It needs to be doable in a time frame, in the time frame of the project, and sometimes, well, people have the tendency to promise a lot, unfortunately. But then ambition, and here we have also to find a good balance, because this is not an ERC proposal. If you know a bit, it's not a EIC Pathfinder proposal. Yeah. So, I mean, they are not a high risk, high gain proposal here. So they don't want you to take a lot of risks. They want what you will do in your project to be feasible, to be based on some stuff that already exists, to be based on the state of the art, basically, and then to go further and to promise something that is, ambition. I don't have another word to describe that, but that is realistic. And the way you get credible with this realistic point of view is when you manage to quantify your objectives, you manage to provide some quantification. This is very important, but the quantification that needs to be better than the state of the art. So this is how we will see the ambitious. And the ambition needs also to is also linked to basically the impact that you will have. And this impact word, although we have a section impact, the impact aspect needs to be also present in the excellence part, because we need to understand what will be the impact. And basically, if you have impact, your project should be ambitious then, but on the end users and on the market, what you will create. And when we see that, then the expert will be reassured on the potential and on the ambition of your project. Yeah. I don't know if it's clear.
No, but it's something that always generates some.
There are different concepts
from person to person, consultant to consultant, from researcher to researcher when when writing this. So but I think you put it beautiful. Then state of the art.
the state of the art, normally I would say for researchers, that should be the easiest thing to write, because as researcher, you know your literature, you know what exists, you know what your competitor they do in other research lab, in other universities, even in other companies. Normally, when you build, if you are a company, you know your market, so you know what's going on out there. Where sometimes it becomes complicated is that people sometimes get focused only on the EU level, but it's really international level, international location regarding the state of the art and what's going on everywhere. But it's not, here we just want to know that you are aware of what exists, and you need to convince the expert that you really know everything that's going on, because if you manage to convince them, then they will know that you know your topic, and they will feel comfortable with how you go further than the state of the art.
It's basically saying within what the commission wants to give money, what is possible today, and then you need to show that you can step beyond that border. That's what you need to show. You need to show that you know it. Exactly. You have to map it. And so this is what it looks like now. This is what can be done, and we are going to change this. So we will push it a notch further. But it's correct. Researchers find it easy, but other sort of companies find it more difficult to handle this.
Yeah, because you need references, scientific references.
Exactly. No, that's the first key element of the excellence chapter the commission is carving on. Then we have the second key element of the excellence chapter that you needs to make sure you cover, and that's the sentence is a little longer, but I am going to read it out, and I'm going to read it out as slowly, but not too slow that you're going to fall asleep out there. So it sounds like this: soundness of the proposed methodology, including the underlying concepts, models, assumptions, interdisciplinarity approaches, appropriate consideration of the gender dimension in research and innovation content, and the quality of science practices, including sharing and management of research outputs and engagement of citizens, civil society, and end users where appropriate. It's a long list, but let's break it down. Soundness of methodology.
Yeah, it's basically your methodology. What you will do, and here I want you to. I should recheck what is written for the implementation of section 3, but here it's going to be about the what and the why. It's not about the how you will do it. The how you will do it, this is in your work package, in your implementation. Here you need to explain, why you chose this methodology to solve this problem, and you need to explain what you will use, what phases you will use to achieve the objectives of your project and stuff like that. But this is about the what and the why, and the how is in another section of the proposal.
So basically, here, what's happening here in this part is that you need to go into it's explaining how you want to solve the problem. How are you going to attack this? So what is your research concept, if it's a research proposal? What is your innovation process? You're like, what is the idea? Because this is the square root of your project idea. The concept is your idea, so to say. This is your unique way of solving this problem. So that's your concept. So that's how do you want to solve it, like Marie just said. And then you have models and assumptions. So you will have, for some research, it sounds like you have a lot of knowledge from the research side, Marie. So models here, I guess the commission here is referring to if you have, no, you need to explain that. No, I'm not. This is why you're on board. This is why you're helping me here.
My pleasure. Well, when they say models, assumptions, and stuff like that, they want that you approach the problem. It's a bit also like the ERC. They want you to put a research question, like to use an hypothesis, and then you will explain what are the assumptions, the model, well, when they say models, what is expected behind to solve this hypothesis and this research question. And basically, this is when they want you to explain that. So you will need to put, okay, our research question is that, or our hypothesis is that to solve that problem, we should do da 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 da. So this is your hypothesis. And then from that, you will explain what is behind this hypothesis, why you think that it would work if you do that and that and that. So this is
very
an assumption.
Clear. Beautiful.
And then,
thanks.
okay, is that good?
Yeah, no, but it's very clear to the point. And very, very, very understandable. And this is where you also come off, where you will need to explain what happens if it don't follow from point A to point D, what you'll need to do if it, because it, so this is beautifully shortly explained here by Marie. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Interdisciplinary approaches, that has become stronger over the years in the framework program. There's always been an element. There's always been an element of good if you can cross some disciplines. Good, but now they are sort of pushing it.
Yeah. They are pushing that because basically, and it's not only applied to interdisciplinary, but to solve what we are trying to do now is not to solve only European problems. We are trying to solve global problems, global challenges, the sustainable development goals that are also the one of the main objectives of Horizon Europe. And the Commission thinks, and actually it should be any researchers on this planet should think that when we want to solve a global challenge, you cannot do it anymore from a monodisciplinary perspective. It has to integrate a lot of different disciplines to go quicker, from the social point of view, from the technical point of view, from the economic point of view, environmental point of view. We need to embrace a lot of different disciplines to go quicker and to solve a global challenge. So this is why this is very important to take that in mind. And that's why also the Commission says that we cannot approach a problem from the European side, but it needs to be international, or we cannot approach a problem just from one academic side. It needs to be intersectoral. So it's the same for interdisciplinary. It needs to be to bring together a lot of disciplines from, basically we have three big disciplines, the life science, hard science, and social science. But then you need to be able to ask yourself a question when you approach, and this is very complicated, trust me, when I'm talking to, and it would be even more complicated for the company, the private sector. But when I'm talking to the research, let's say the academic sector, it's very complicated because they've not been skilled to think this way. That's a problem. And so now I'm starting to see a lot in the universities and research centers, a lot of initiatives to bring different disciplines together, so like departments that organize speed dating with other departments to try to see how they could find they could approach this research question from different disciplines. But this is not common. But I think it's a good thing that the Commission is pushing for that. But I'm not sure now that the researchers they are used to that and they are skilled for that. So it will come little by little. I think I'm sure of that. But
I think this is where the Commission sometimes squeeze a little bit the communities.
That's for sure.
Say we want
that's
we want
a problem.
This, and then they squeeze it, and then people say, shit, we have to.
No, exactly. It's like that. It's like that, and I think it explains actually. From my experience, for the a lot of Horizon Europe scores that we got since it started, I have the impression it's a bit lower compared to the last Horizon 2020 scores that we got when it was 2 years ago. And I think because people really, they have new stuff in this template regarding interdisciplinary, regarding open science and stuff like that, and they might not be already full in the capacity to address this aspect.
Everybody is testing the ground like this,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's true.
Fine, because it would be very long so I'm just going to try to push us a little forward here. Let's have, so the gender dimension, that's the next element that they mention here in the sentence. The gender dimension was introduced as obligatory in, I think, FP7. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But it always
Yeah.
remained sort of, in all proposals I've been developing or involved in, it was a standard text of 2 paragraphs or 1 paragraph,
Yeah.
saying that
On the
basically
equality.
saying that of course we will pay any attention to gender where possible. We will have female researchers, blah blah blah. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think
Exactly.
the commissions got tired of of reading the same paragraphs with because
No, that's for sure.
it didn't sink in. You know, it has nothing to do with
Yeah.
actually. It didn't mean anything to anybody except for
Yeah,
the
that's true.
proposal calls specifically gender-related calls. So now they're kind of they're squeezing it.
Yeah, but and what I'm, because before, and even on your side as well, and even a lot of consultant, we didn't want to dig too much into the gender considerations from a research point of view, and a lot of the content, and the experts were actually quite happy every time they were saying in the evaluation report, okay, we can see that they will make some effort to ensure equality and gender approach in the management and stuff like that, except that normally this part should have been in the implementation. And now in the excellence, it should be very, like, really, and this is very complicated actually, but Google is our friend, I would say. You should really approach this question really from a research point of view, like how gender influences your research, and not how your project will favor really nice gender procedures in your management. And here, this is something, well, I've read actually in some evaluation reports, some experts still saying for Horizon Europe that the gender dimension for equality is very nice and blah, 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 but it should not be more normally in the excellence part. And this is something that the Commission should really tell the expert, that there should be no comment in the excellence part related to gender, because normally all institutions from the academic side, they have a gender equality plan. So we expect them to master all these questions of gender in research teams and gender in recruiting researchers and all that stuff. So it should not be there anymore. Now the experts, they should really approach this gender consideration as it's written in the template from a research point of view. But it's quite tricky, because now I'm asking the researchers to check why there should be a gender dimension when they are developing, I don't know, a solar concentrator. Why? where is there any gender dimension there? So it's quite complicated.
I think,
but,
again, it's here, the Commission sometimes push in a direction where one size doesn't fit all. Especially when it's so diverse, the calls is strategic research here. So you have elements where it doesn't make any sense at all to talk about gender. And okay, you force them to think about it, but sometimes it might take away a little bit the focus that could be no.
That's a problem.
Open science.
Well, open science. We
open
it's the same as you were saying. Big word, big buzzword, but very, very, very important in a time like I was talking about the interdisciplinary. When we have to take into consideration global challenges and need to go quicker. Open science help you to go quicker. So you have to open your practices. You have to open your publication, your data, your education resources. You have to put, when you want to publish, you need to put your publications open to get them reviewed in an open way, and open. So everything needs to be open, but like the Commission says, as open as possible, as closed as necessary. So we might all know this sentence from the Commission, but this is something quite important. But again, like you were saying, the Commission is pushing maybe a bit too much there, because it's the same. Researchers are not fully convinced about the whole thing, and it's a bit hard to put them into
Actually,
that.
Marie, I think the ones that have the biggest issue with this, that's the industry.
Absolutely.
Because researchers, they're always interested in having a license to continue. They're of course protective about their research. Researchers, they can be fierce around what they do, but it's the industry, because that's money.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's patents. They can I've been at some of these meetings where they are very they get very uncomfortable when you use the word open.
That's true.
And science in the same sentence.
That's true. But the Commission published actually very recently, like a month ago, something like that. Actually, it's from the European Commission IPR help desk. And they published a document targeting actually the industry and open science, and how open science does not make it absolutely impossible to involve the industry. And so there it's like a 10 pages document, 10, 15 pages, I don't remember. But if the industry, you're listening to us, you should read that document and be convinced that those two concepts, like the exploitation of the results and the open science, this is not, there are no conflicts. Well, no conflicts. You should be careful, of course, protect properly and etc. But it's not incompatible.
Yeah. I think many of these things can be fixed by and they are fixed in consortium agreements and in the contract with the Commission. That of course, the Commission is not interested in undermining its own industry. Of course, they want to keep it solid and not sell out everything. But there's an element here of sharing what can be shared to make everybody stronger, especially the lower tiers of the value chain in different commercial areas, SMEs, startups, and so on. That for the benefit of everybody.
Yeah.
Last part of I think we covered it now, because we will also come into when we move on. So it's to how to attack these things. So the final part of the sentence, that's something that they introduced, sort of introduced in the Green Deal calls. Yeah, it became a thing.
Yeah.
It became a big thing where more or less all Green Deal calls had this citizens, civil society, and end users.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is something tricky.
Yeah.
This what we call engagement of citizens, like citizen science. This is part of the concept of open science. This is part of what we call RRI, research responsible and innovation, I think. I'm not sure anymore. RRI. But this is part of this big concept that you need to involve the citizens to go further and to be like really to englobe everyone in the way you approach a challenge.
This is part of making sure that what the project is doing is sinking into the real world, so to say.
Yeah, that's true. But here, it's something. Well, the engagement of citizens. This is not something you should consider as obligatory. This is where appropriate. And well, let's be honest. Not a lot of proposals are going to approach and attack this big aspect of these proposals with citizen science, because it's a project in itself from my point of view. But at some point, and I think, again, I saw quite recently a document from the Commission speaking about providing examples of projects that were already funded, and that provides example, because I think one of the reasons why the researchers they feel a bit not comfortable putting that in the proposal is because they don't know what is engagement of citizens or what is citizen science. But if you read some examples, you would see that it's not that complicated. Even just to do, like, I don't know, if you do a Google form, you would and you send it to the citizens, you send it to the stakeholders, to the end users and people that would use your proposal, you would already be active in citizen science. So you just need some small parts there, but this is a concept that is quite important as well, but that is again quite hard to master in a scientific proposal.
Here it's sort of take the temperature of depending on what you're doing, and then if you can have an angle, if you can have an angle where you somehow get engaged in one way or the other. It can be a simple form with some associations.
Well, public acceptance, this is it's quite easy to add actually. Public acceptance, when you check, like you try to make some stats on what would be the public acceptance if you install, I don't know, wind turbine or something like that in the landscape.
Classic.
Something that is classic, of course. Then, so this would be, if you try to get the feedback from the citizens, then that would be already engagement of the citizens. And this is something quite easily to tick.
I was writing proposals on valorization of organic food waste into additives to food.
Okay.
So there we had an issue of how would people perceive garbage being made into something
interesting
that would be because it was basically garbage from wasted food from the food industry, food waste that would be processed. And then extraction process, and then you would take elements out that could be used as natural sensory flavors, something like this, or preservation and stuff like this. But so the idea of, I think we had to deal with, or we had to address this element, public acceptance of this way of that waste was be used like this again.
This is quite like easy way to get the citizens to be engaged, like what they think of what you do, and basically what would impact them quite strong, because we keep forgetting that at some point, and why this is important for the Commission, the final people that you will impact with your project, this is us. This is a normal citizen. And all Horizon Europe, this is an impact-driven project. But an impact-driven, of course, is for the economy, and this is for the research and the technology impact. But then at some point, all of that, this will impact the society and the citizens. So you need to understand how you will impact them. And depending on that, you need to try to find a way to engage them into, I don't know, helping you to fine-tune a bit this impact, so that it's really a positive impact, not a negative one.
All right. I think we have it. I think we covered it now. It's complex to cover. We could have probably 5 episodes only start talking about the Commission's approach to this. What I want us to do now, with this in mind that we just went through, just very practically, just start to look into how you, Marie, how do you build your excellent chapter up? How do you structure how's your approach and how to structure it when you... And here we have reached to the subject of next week's episode on how to actually write this section up against the instructions of the EU Commission. Stay tuned next Monday and catch our reflections, advice, tips and tricks on how to approach this work. See you then. The grant. You have been listening to The Grant, the EU funding podcast.